ABR. ABR is one of the things that I coach leaders, no matter whether you are a young leader or a seasoned leader, you need to always be recruiting. Welcome everybody to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Welcome everybody to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I am your host, John Espinosa. Thank you for joining me today. You can see the background looks a little bit different. I'm traveling and I always tell myself, don't make excuses. Get on, let's record a podcast. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I've been in the leadership business for 15 plus years, mentoring and coaching leaders, developing training for leaders, and walking right beside leaders, helping others get to where they're going. And that starts with you, the leader. Today, I wanted to talk about something that really started out with my wife and her company. And it's a multi-level marketing company. And we were talking one day with her team and we came up with the acronym ABR. Always be recruiting. And it got me thinking about leadership and how when we are leading teams and we're surrounding ourselves with the best and brightest individuals, how do we do that? How do we accomplish that? How have you accomplished that as leaders, getting the people around the table that help you make decisions, that you trust, that buy into your vision, that help maintain the culture that you have created or the organization has created? You got to recruit those people. And I'm not talking about paying them incentives to come to your organization. As a leader, I want the best and brightest people on my team. I'm very competitive. I want people around me who we see things and we go get them. We succeed. And if there's a challenge, they are bringing solutions to the table. So just by me talking about these things, it's recruiting. I always find it interesting when I meet people for the very first time. I sit back and I listen. I try to be the most interested person in the room. And I want to get to know people. I want to get to know their lifestyle. I want to get to know what makes them tick. I want to get to know the things that they currently do. Okay, relatability. And when you are recruiting somebody, whether it's actively or inactively recruiting, because you can be doing both. If it's just a simple conversation and you're talking about the organization that you work in, or if it's something about your lifestyle, or if it's just, let's keep it simple. Maybe it's about how your work-life balance. People will engage with you if you can talk to the points and things that they're interested in. So, for example, the other day, I was sitting with a group of people around the room, and it was me. Another leader was at the table. Another manager, frontline manager, was at the table. And we're both very different. They run engineers. I run training. And it was kind of weird because there was two young employees and we were having a conversation and they were asking about what we do. And I had already learned a lot about what they've done in their organizations, why they joined the organization in the first place. That's a big key to understand, is why people decide to come work for the organization, because that's going to let you know, hey, is their motivation in the right place, right? Does it fit into the culture kind of thing? And just to know a little bit about people's upbringing, I tend to gravitate towards those that have experienced some sort of struggle, or they've overcome maybe an obstacle, or maybe they've been in a single parent home and they had a lot of responsibility as a young adult, as a teenager. Maybe it was that they took a job at a very young age and they had to go out there, and it wasn't necessarily that they were contributing to the family, but they had to go work. They had to go work because mom and dad didn't have any extra money to allow them to go do the things that they wanted to do. So what did they do? They hustled and they went and found a way to get things done. Problem solving. I have a list of things that I tend to gravitate towards, and being a problem solver is one of them. High energy is another one. Motivating. Somebody who is able to take a conversation and get you to buy in, right? I mean, it's almost like a chess game when you're talking to somebody and they're talking about the organization and why they joined the organization and their, story. They're telling their story. And I'm like, this person, they got it together. I mean, I can see myself in them. And that piece, I think, goes to a lot of what we're going to talk about today. And really the first one is communicating your values. And in order for you to communicate your values as a leader, you got to know what they are, one. And then two, you got to be able to look for those values in others. So your values are the foundation of the culture that we establish as leaders. How we bring people into the organization, recruit people into our organization, we want to make sure that they have similar values. Are they a team player? Do they value teamwork? Do they communicate well? Are they able to tell their story? Because if I'm talking to somebody and they're not able to articulate their story very well, you might want to rethink this. Make sure that they're honest. A lot of times I find that out when they share something that they normally wouldn't share, or an embarrassing story, again, that makes them relatable, right? So all of the things that we have talked about over this season, where we're talking about communication, relatability, make sure that they're teamwork, make sure they're high trust, if they're sharing information, if they're being vulnerable in conversations, a lot of times I'm going to trust that person. I'm going to be able to depend on that person. Where are they going? Where do they see themselves in a year, 2 years, 3 or 4 years? I want those visionaries on my team as well, because I am looking to help others get to where they're going. And that starts with them knowing where they want to go, and then me just removing all the roadblocks to be able to get them there. So that's one of the things. Know your values. Understand their values. The second one, the way that we accomplish that is you got to be curious. I mentioned earlier, I sit back, I'm the most interested person in the conversation, and a lot of times it's a chess match, because I will find that people will ask me questions and I'll try to answer their questions, but then I'll rephrase it in a way that they can expound, and then they'll rephrase it, and I'm like, all right, challenge accepted, right? Those are the people I want on my team. I want to be recruiting them. And then last but not least, do I see myself in them? Is there a piece of what they are giving me, whether through communication, maybe it was through an experience that they shared, we have a similar upbringing, we had similar challenges. I love the story that I didn't think I was going to be here where I am today. If you would have asked me 5, 10, 15 years ago what I would be doing today, I could have never imagined it. I find that interesting. I find people who are able to overcome, adapt, they're agile, they're flexible, and they make the best out of every situation that they've put in. That's who I want on my team. So you got to identify the characteristics that you want for your team, and that goes back to your values. But you have to be curious to understand if that individual has those abilities and those characteristics that you're looking for. In recruiting doesn't mean, hey, come work for me tomorrow. It could, but a lot of times that's not how my situations have worked out. It's a year, 2 years, 3 years, where now I'm in a different organization, or maybe I've taken another spot and I remember back, I go back into the memory banks. If it's a memorable conversation, guess what? I'm going to reach out to that person. I'm going to say, what are you doing? I have an opportunity that I'd love to talk to you about. Put my foot in the door and then have that conversation. So as a leader, always be recruiting. And it doesn't mean that you got to poach people from organizations. It doesn't mean that you got to incentivize people to come work for you, but it means that I want the best and brightest people on my team. I'm going to sell my organization. I'm going to put myself in the best light, because I want high performers on my team. And in order to do that, we got to be always recruiting. I hope this helps somebody go out, communicate, make sure that you have a clear vision of where you're going, and that allows people to want to jump on board. Always be recruiting, leaders. Go be great. Talk to everyone later. Bye. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us get others to where they're going.